Hello and welcome back to another episode of Katie in the Kitchen. I am your host, Katie Ruffino. Today we are going to be making some quick, easy, and fairly healthy recipes to bring as an appetizer either for a dinner party or a potluck or holiday event. Tonight, my parents are hosting a Bible study at their house, and I wanted to make a special fall treat for their guests. So we will be making two recipes today. I am going to be doubling this recipe because there are going to be about 18 people attending this event, and I want to make sure I have enough. Just to note that everybody who's coming to this event are going to be bringing some sort of dish, whether that's savory, sweet, or a drink. So with that in mind, I decided to double this recipe for that reason. If you would like to just make this for a smaller gathering, feel free to cut the recipe in half. We will start off with making the meatballs. So what you will need is some sage, some fresh sage, 2 pounds of organic ground turkey, 2 eggs, some breadcrumbs. If the breadcrumbs that you're using don't have Parmesan in them, then you would want some Parmesan as well, and a couple cloves of garlic and 2 apples. I chose Honeycrisp because that is what is in season and what I prefer, but you can feel free to choose any other red apple you would like. Just make sure it's one that has a bit of a tang. We will also be making some prosciutto wrapped mozzarella sticks. Super easy and very tasty. I think that the holidays are a great time for people to come together, connect over food and good conversation, and we'll be doing both of those today. To get into the holiday spirit, let's light a candle, turn on some music, and get started in the kitchen and set the mood for our cooking experience. Without further ado, let's get cooking. We'll start off by peeling the apple. I can smell the juice from the apple every time I peel a piece off. A tip that my grandmother taught me is that you can put all the scraps from your cooking into a bowl to make up a little trash. You can clean your cooking area while you cook. Next, we will chop the apple to get rid of the core and chop it up into smaller pieces. You want to get these pretty tiny. You can either use a food processor or cut this up yourself, depending on if you want apple chunks or more of a puree. You can also use applesauce if you don't have any fresh apples or want to use applesauce to avoid this step, but it is not a requirement. I would actually prefer fresh apples. We are using apples because they are in season, and whenever I think of fall, I think of apples. Apple picking, I think of the cider mill, apple pie. Apples are very high in fiber, which are great for the digestive system, which also helps to detox from estrogens and other toxins in the body. I like to use the time that I spend cutting to think about my day, think about what I'm grateful for, to think about what I would like to do. I ponder any life questions, and I just allow my mind to be free here. When you are focused on doing one thing, such as cutting an apple, that's considered a monotask. Other versions of monotasks are like mowing the lawn, doing the dishes. It can seem monotonous at first or kind of boring, but it's actually very therapeutic if you approach it from the sense of, ooh, this is my time to just focus on doing one thing and allow my mind to process any thoughts or any ideas or anything that I need to work through, because you're actually giving yourself space. You're keeping your hands busy, and then you get to allow your mind to be free. So consider that next time you are wanting to avoid a chore. Just remember, when you're thinking about things and you're feeling a certain emotion while you're cooking, you might transmute that energy into the food that you're eating. So whenever I'm cooking for myself or others, I always try to be in a calm, relaxed state if I can, because I know that that energy is then going to be put into the food that I'm giving to the people that I'm serving, including myself. Thankfully, we are done with the apple. How therapeutic was that? Very. Next, we are going to add the garlic since we are already here. We are going to do 4 cloves of garlic. Gosh, why does garlic have to be so messy? All right. Little trick to take off the skin of the garlic. Smack that garlic. Now that's where you can get your anger out. And then just chop it, throw it in here. Everything goes into the bowl. Next, we will crack the eggs. If you are wanting to do this without eggs, you can use flax seed and make a flax egg instead. And if you are gluten-free, you can use gluten-free breadcrumbs instead if they are available, or you can take gluten-free crackers and put them through a food processor and make your own breadcrumbs. For right now, we're going to use these Italian breadcrumbs. That is what we have at this house. And another thing about cooking is sometimes you just don't need to go by the exact recipe. You can just use what you have at home and get creative. When I was in college, I had very minimal things to use to cook, and so it forced me to get creative, and that's what helped my creative wheels spin. All right, we are gonna do 1/2 cup of breadcrumbs. And again, if your breadcrumbs have Parmesan in them already, then you don't need to add extra Parmesan. But if they don't, you can add Parmesan if you'd like. But it's not necessary. If you'd prefer these to be dairy-free, then you can use a bit of nutritional yeast, and that has a bit of nutty, cheesy flavor, and it's vegan. All right, we're almost ready to mix. We're going to take some fresh sage. Look at how beautiful it is. Sage feels super soft. It's a super smooth, velvety texture. So when you're holding the sage, definitely feel that. Feel how soft it is. They're like little bunny ears. All right, so you want to take the leaves off of the stems, and you're going to have extra sage if you buy sage at the store like this. So you can use the extra sage in other recipes. You can use it for stuffing. If you're making stuffing for Thanksgiving, you can use sage and make a tea. You can steep it. You can also dry it. And when you dry the sage, you can burn it. And that's what is very clearing energetically. So while we're not going to burn the sage today, hopefully we don't burn these meatballs. But hey, if we do, would that be so bad? Because then maybe we'd be clearing extra energy, extra negative energy. All right, that's probably good. All right, same thing. We're just gonna chop the sage. Put this over here. You can also use dried sage. However, I really prefer fresh herbs in general. I think that once you cut through any herb, you can just smell the flavor of the herb coming through. Oh my gosh, that smells so good. This to me is like peak fall flavors. All right, and you just wanna chop it as finely as you can get it. All right, that goes right into the bowl. Now, the last thing we will put inside here is the turkey. Now, this will be interesting because of my nails. I, for the past year, have been wearing my nails long, and because of that, it makes cooking a little bit tricky because I don't want to get the stuff caught underneath my nails, but I guess I could wear gloves. I just don't have any here. All right, just throw that right in there. Make sure you don't leave the paper in there. Now at this point, I should have turned the oven on to preheat. We are going to bake these meatballs. You can saute them or fry them on a pan. However, for ease of cooking and health, we are going to bake them in the oven. All right, make sure your hands are clean before you get in there. You can also use a potato masher if you don't want to get, actually this is working pretty well. If you don't want to get your hands in there, you can use a potato masher. Oh gosh. I think I used way too many apples for this recipe, now that I think about this. The fun thing about cooking is you get to just play around and try different things, and if something doesn't work, then you know what to do or not do the next time. So, all right, we're gonna put that to the side, and we're just gonna go for it, because why not? Okay. Ugh. Or maybe I didn't use too many apples. We'll see. Ugh, yummy. That looks great. It feels so ooey gooey. This is something that you could have your kids do if you're cooking and you want to include your kids in the process of cooking and have them help you. This would be a great step for them to help you out with and just get their hands dirty. It's like using Play-Doh. Now you want to keep mixing it until everything seems to be incorporated. Like there's still some apple pieces at the bottom, so I want to make sure that those are fully incorporated into the mix. And you can fold it on top of each other. Now, if you want, you can add some salt to this, or add some salt at the end, because I didn't add any salt or pepper, but there's a little bit of salt in the Parmesan, so if you're using Parmesan, then you probably don't need to use too much salt. But I personally like a little bit of salt, so I'm gonna add some myself, but I'm going to wash my hands first. All right, the Malden sea salt, my absolute favorite salt. Okay, that's good. Careful, it might come out quick. And then I'm gonna use some black pepper. I love some black pepper. If you want, you can also have fun and add some dried thyme or rosemary to these, whatever you would prefer. All right, we're just gonna mix that in. Get that all incorporated as well. If you're wearing any jewelry, I would suggest taking that off when you're doing this. Like I'm wearing a ring and I probably should have taken that off, but it's okay. All right, and now you have your mix. And now what we're gonna do next is we're gonna ball these up into the little balls and put them on a cookie sheet with parchment paper. We are going to preheat the oven on bake to 350 and take out our cookie sheets. I might need 2, or I might need 1. Grab some parchment paper. I like this one that is brown because it's unbleached, so it is safer for your food to be cooking on it. We're just gonna start with 1 sheet for now. I'm gonna bring over our dish and then grab a spoon to measure out your meatballs. I would say about this big. You want your meatballs to be about that big. Maybe we should make up a meatball song. The reason why I chose these meatballs is 1, because they're delicious, and 2, because most things that people bring to a potluck or a dinner party are usually high in fats and carbs, and I wanted to make sure that we had something that had protein in it. So turkey meatballs are a great way to add protein to the mix. Thinking about others, you know. Because protein is also blood sugar stabilizing, and if you're eating a lot of sugar or bread, which are usually at holiday parties, eating your protein will help to blunt that blood sugar spike, so that way you feel good while you're present at the party. All right, now you can make these bigger or smaller depending on kind of like your goal, whether you want a more bite size or a couple bite size. I realize I'm making these pretty large, so c'est la vie. It's always good to be prepared ahead of time if you need something. So what's that saying? I'd rather have and not need than to need and have not. Parents would always tell me that. All right, I'm just gonna stack these next to each other for now before I'll move them to the next pan. All right, a couple more. Just realized I never put an apron on, but I think I'm being pretty clean, so. So we made 34 meatballs. So with 18 guests, everybody's gonna get to eat too. And some people might not eat at all, so. We're good. Are now ready to put these into the oven. And we are gonna put them into the oven at 350 for about 20 minutes. They might need a little bit longer though. We're gonna give them 25 minutes. The thing about turkey is that it can get a little bit dry, so what we're gonna do is make a sauce to dip the meatballs in. So you can do a variety of sauces, whichever ones you'd like. I found this apple cinnamon barbecue sauce at Nino Salvaggio's down the street. So I figured we could try this. And then I also got this fig butter, which I thought could either be separate or a bit together. So that is what I'm going to use to dip the meatballs in. You can use any other barbecue sauce. You could do a mustard, depending on the level of sweetness and or savoriness that you'd like. Because the meatballs already have apples in them, I figured that the apple cinnamon would be pretty good with that. So, and the ingredients actually looked pretty good and were all real ingredients. So make sure that you look for that, and you don't want any seed oils in your sauces because those are pro-inflammatory. So things like canola oil, sunflower, safflower seed, peanut oil, vegetable oils, things like that. All right, we're gonna put these over to the side, and we are gonna get started now while those are cooking on our second appetizer, which is prosciutto wrapped mozzarella sticks. I got the idea for this appetizer from a pre-made snack that Trader Joe's offers, which is something very similar, if not the exact same thing. But I wanted to make my own and be able to choose which meat I use, which is imported from Italy, and then my own mozzarella sticks that are higher quality. So I'm gonna lay out the mozzarella sticks first, just to separate them a bit here. You can also cut these in half if you want more bite-sized pieces, which I might actually do. Because somebody might not want an entire mozzarella stick, but they might want half, because there's going to be other food there. It's not like it's the only food option available. Probably shouldn't be cutting this on here, but c'est la vie. Guess I'm wanting to go to France. I keep saying French phrases. All right, you can also Well, no, that's not gonna work. My grandma would yell at me if she saw me doing this. She's like, you never want to use your knife to open things because it'll dull it. But, it's okay. All right, so we're gonna take a bit of prosciutto and just wrap the mozzarella stick like that. If at all while you're making these you want a snack, I would say that's okay. It's so chewy and salty. The depth of flavor is really there. That with a little bit of Cabernet, it'd be so good. So I'm not a fan of deli meats. However, I do love a good prosciutto that's fresh from Italy because I know that the quality is much better. A lot of processed meats that are in the deli section are actually high in nitrates and other preservative chemicals that are harmful for the body. So I try to avoid deli meats actually as much as I can. We are making quite a few here. And the last one. Save this for later. Now look at how beautiful that turned out. For a special bonus in this episode, we are going to be making a mulled wine. Well, I don't usually endorse alcohol. It is something that we will be making today. You can choose to boil off the alcohol actually by boiling the drink before drinking it. But because I'm with people who enjoy alcohol, we are not going to be doing that. We're going to be making a traditional mulled wine. So, without further ado, let's get spicy. To start, you're going to want to pick a wine that is either, you're going to want to pick a red wine. Now I chose an Italian Chianti red wine to use for this drink. What you're going to do is you're going to want to start by opening up your bottle of wine somewhere. Fun fact, I actually studied abroad in Italy and I studied food and wine culture. So I learned about all the different types of wine that Italy serves and learned how to taste them like a true sommelier. If you want to learn more about my journey, I will be sharing more about that soon, so stay tuned. So we are an Italian family and the Ruffino wine is our extended family. And we do have a wine opener. This is always the hardest part. The reason why I picked this one is because I love the bottle. I think it's very traditional looking and quite elegant. I also enjoy a Chianti from Italy, and it was a good price at Trader Joe's. Another great option would have been a Zinfandel or Merlot, potentially a Malbec as well. There we go. Ooh, let's check on our meatballs. Do another 5 minutes on the meatballs. I switched the trays so that way the bottom tray gets to be on the top to even out the cooking for each. I need a man. There we go. I don't need no man. Just kidding, I do at some point. I'm not gonna try to be one of those I don't need no man kind of girls. I really enjoy the strength of men when it comes to times like this. Perfect. Perfecto. All right, I'm no pro at opening a bottle of wine, clearly, but that's okay. I'm trying. Oh yeah, this episode's not for those under 21. Presto. All right, let's do a smell. That smells lovely. It smells delectable. I'm going to pour the wine, the entire bottle into, all right, maybe I should have put an apron on for this part. I think I might actually need 2 bottles of wine. There we go. All right, now we are going to add some fresh cranberries. Put them in a colander. probably enough. And into the drink, there you go. We are also going to slice an orange and put those inside. So you can take off this is a blood orange. Usually you want to take off the rind of the orange before slicing to actually reduce the bitterness of the flavor of the wine. So I'm going to take off the rind, or the peel, like this. And if there's a little bit of juice left in here, you can squeeze it out. And slice these thinly, like so. Place them inside the wine. Now these orange slices are actually going to the bottom, so you can't see them floating on top, as the cranberries are on top. If you could return, don't let it burn, don't let it fade. Sure, not being rude, and it's just your attitude. It's tearing me apart, it's ruining every day. Now I'm in so deep, you know I'm just a fool for you. This makes me, when I think of cranberries, I think of the band, the Cranberries. You got me wrapped around your finger. Do you have to let it linger? Do you have to? Do you have to? Have to let it linger. All right, the oven is beeping. You know what that means? The meatballs. Oh, this smells so good. You can smell the Parmesan. Ta-da! The meatballs. The meatballs are complete. Yes. So now I'm gonna put those in a warming drawer in about an hour or two to keep them warm for the party. All right, back to the wine. So now that we have the fruit inside, we are going to use whole star anise. Star anise has sort of a licorice flavor because that is basically what they use for black licorice is anise. So this is new. I'm gonna have to open this. Again, sorry, Grandma. All right. We're going to use about 8 of these. They're so pretty. Wow. So there's an Italian cookie called the pizzelle, and I make these with my grandma around the holidays, and we use star anise extract for the drink. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more for good measure. They're so pretty. All right, so we use the star anise. And next, we're going to add some whole cloves. You want to use the whole spice because it will infuse into the drink much better. Wow, that smells so good too. Cloves are actually in a parasite cleanse. Fun fact. That just smelled like one of my parasite cleansers. No, we are not parasite cleansing right now. Maybe. And then whole cinnamon sticks. I'm gonna do 2 for right now, but we'll do 4. All right, so now we're gonna turn this crock pot on and we're gonna have it be at warm, and it's gonna now simmer for about 3 hours. And if you want the spices to come through even more, you'll want to warm it for longer. If you don't want it as spicy, then you don't have to put it as long. The next step would be to add some sweetener. You can add honey, you can add maple syrup, you can do cane sugar, but I would probably add maple syrup to this. I think maple syrup would taste really good with this. The oaky flavor of the maple syrup will go really well with the oakiness of the red wine. Thank you for watching today's episode of Katie in the Kitchen. I hope that you feel inspired to now make some of these recipes for your next holiday gathering. If you want to learn more, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and like and comment on this video and let me know if you tried any of these recipes or what other holiday recipes are your favorite. And you can also follow along on my other social media platforms linked below. If you're interested in learning more about how to cook, I have a recipe guide which teaches you how to meal prep like a pro and also includes 5 weeks of recipes that you can follow along to feed yourself and or your family. Click the link below in the descriptions to download the guide. And again, thank you for choosing today to live life on the sunny side. Until next time, this is Katie.